welcome to NTD China News. I'm Karen Chang. Making headlines this Monday, December 17. China responds to the election of Japan's new leader. The EU highlights China in its latest human rights report. And one person has been killed in a building collapse in eastern China. Over the past few months, China and Japan have both taken nationalistic actions over resource-rich islands in the East China Sea. Now that conservative Japanese politician Shinzo Abe has been elected the new prime minister, how has China responded?
On Sunday, Japan elected Shinzo Abe from the Liberal Democratic Party to be its new prime minister. Abe has expressed a tough stance on China, particularly over the territorial conflict in the East China Sea. Responding to Japan's election results, China's foreign ministry spokeswoman says she hopes Japan's new leaders will work on bilateral relations. State-run Xinhua news agency also urged the new prime minister not to, quote, pick fights. Japan, China and Taiwan all claim ownership of the East China Sea islands, called Diaoyu in Chinese and Senkaku in Japanese. The islands are thought to sit atop a large reservoir of oil and gas and are located in some of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Huang Da-hui, the director of the Center for East Asian Studies at Renmin University, says he thinks it's in both countries' interest to resolve the dispute peacefully.
Personally, I think tensions over the Diaoyu Islands will ease up in general. As I mentioned before, the current Sino-Japan relationship, overshadowed by quarrels over the Diaoyu Islands, is not normal. Sino-Japan relations are not only about the Diaoyu Islands. Secondly, disputes over the Diaoyu Islands have already damaged the Sino-Japan relationship. Both sides cannot afford to allow the problem to continue for a very long time.
There are mixed reactions among Chinese citizens towards Abe's election win.
I think going back to the status quo is comparatively acceptable to both sides. But since Japan has made the first step, it would be very difficult to return to the status quo. I think China-Japan relations will gradually improve after Abe takes power, because Abe is a very experienced diplomat.
The election could have broader implications for the world as the second and third largest economies are at a stalemate over this territorial dispute.
The European Union was recently awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its work in spreading democracy and human rights. This month it published its 2011 Human Rights Report outlining areas of progress and shortcomings. China's name appeared more than any other country in the report, with 3 specific areas of concern.
On December 13th, the EU passed a resolution adopting its 2011 Human Rights and Democracy in the World report. China was mentioned under 3 categories of concern in the report, including freedom of thought, conscience, religion or belief. The report expresses concern over groups including Muslims, Buddhists, and Christians. Particularly highlighted were the suppression of Tibetans and allegations that the Chinese regime is involved in the forced organ harvesting of persecuted Falun Gong adherents. The report also condemns China's use of death penalty and its crackdown on human rights defenders and censorship of the media. This EU Parliament member helped draft the Human Rights Report and says he hopes it will provoke action.
We have to send a very strong message that this is unacceptable.
The EU won the 2012 Nobel Peace Prize for Democracy and Human Rights, and the Foreign Minister of Cyprus says this means even greater responsibility for the EU.
The Nobel Prize is a great recognition of our past achievements, but it also focuses the spotlight on all of us to work together and redouble our efforts to promote and protect human rights, both within our borders and worldwide.
The EU compiles the yearly report to show progress made over the past year, but also to identify areas of concern that need further attention.
Chinese rights activist Hu Jia has been in and out of house arrest despite not having been charged with any crimes. Security officials in Beijing are following his movements closely. Last Friday, in order to stop Hu from going out, officials resorted to violence.
Chinese activist Hu Jia was attacked by plainclothes national security officers from Tongzhou County in Beijing on Friday, December 14. Hu was leaving his home when squadron commander Su Lijun led an attack. Hu was on the phone with a Reuters journalist at the time.
They had 3 people stop me. They pushed me, punched my chest and my shoulders. There were 3 of them in total who beat me. They were very vicious. One of them even drove a car into my path. The attack lasted for about half an hour.
Hu Jia said he was planning to attend a memorial ceremony of Cultural Revolution victim Li Julian, but that trip has now been thwarted. Hu says Zhu Yi, the host of the memorial, was taken away by police the day before as well. The high-profile activist says he has been detained repeatedly since the 18th Party Congress.
Since this October and November, when the 18th Party Congress was over and I was sent back from exile in Anhui Province, I've been illegally detained or under house arrest half of the time.
Under house arrest, Hu was even stopped from doing grocery shopping. He says netizens who heard the news visited and brought him vegetables. With the new year just around the corner, Hu says he's unsure when he will be freed from this latest bout of arbitrary detention.
A 6-story building in China's eastern Zhejiang province collapsed on Sunday around noon, according to state media. 2 people were pulled out of the rubble today. One, a woman, died after being taken to the hospital. The other, a male victim, is injured but alive. State-run media says these were the last 2 people left in the building. There were 18 families living here, most evacuated shortly after some reported seeing cracks in the walls. The cause of the collapse is unclear at the moment. The Daily Mail reports the area is subject to monsoons, which can affect the longevity and stability of a building. Since the building was constructed in 1989, age is likely to be a contributing factor. According to state media, residents in surrounding buildings are being evacuated while an investigation is underway. And coming up after the break, protests in Hong Kong over a communist-linked group. Netizens unimpressed by Chinese media coverage of the US school shooting. And meet this dog with star quality. And welcome back. Hong Kong residents have become increasingly sensitive to influences from mainland China. Over the weekend, 2 separate demonstrations took place. Participants want Hong Kong authorities to stop the activities of a group they say has ties to Chinese authorities.
Anger is growing in Hong Kong over this group that many say is backed by the Chinese regime. For 6 months, the Hong Kong Youth Care Association Limited has set their eyes on local Falun Gong practitioners. Large banners and loudspeakers denigrating the meditation practice have become a common sight. Now the Hong Kong public says they've had enough.
It's become unbearable. We're now looking into legal action and have not ruled out taking further steps. I'm really angry, and so are a lot of Hong Kong people.
Falun Gong is heavily persecuted in China, but around the world practitioners have freely exposed the persecution. That included Hong Kong until this June when the Youth Care Association came into the picture. Since then, scenes like this have been spotted around Hong Kong. On Saturday, those opposed to the Youth Care Association protested. Mr. Wang led this group at the Star Ferry Pier on Saturday. They questioned why Hong Kong authorities haven't done more to stop the association's activities.
I suspect the group is getting money from the mainland. We find this terrifying. It's like the Communist Party is preparing to take over Hong Kong, using these kind of banners to brainwash us. Why have the banners been allowed to stay for so long? We've reported it to the government several times, but we've been ignored.
On Sunday, a separate group held a small march through Chatter Garden. They say the Youth Care Association does not represent locals.
They have crossed the line. They're using the Communist Party's methods in Hong Kong, posing as Hong Kong residents. Actually, they cannot represent us because most of them are mainlanders here on a travel pass.
The row over the Youth Care Association is the latest in a series of anti-communist sentiment in Hong Kong. Since Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying, who is friendly with the mainland, was appointed Hong Kong's new leader, protests have erupted in the city streets. Residents are wary of the Chinese regime's encroachment on Hong Kong's civil liberties.
The tragic shooting last week of school children in Connecticut has captured media attention across the world. But China's state-run media has turned the massacre into a political game, one that has infuriated Chinese netizens.
Many across the world are mourning the massacre of school children in Connecticut last Friday. But Chinese state-run media took it as an opportunity to fan the flames of nationalism. State-run CCTV provided round-the-clock in-depth coverage and analysis of the shooting, touting China's zero-tolerance gun laws. Editor of China's state-run Global Times, Hu Jia, was also quoted saying, quote, "Isn't this a human rights disaster?" End quote. It was a subtle stab at U.S. calls for human rights reforms in China, something the Chinese regime has continuously called an internal matter. But Chinese netizens lambasted the nationalistic reports. That's because state-run media hardly reported on a similar school tragedy that happened in central China the same day. Ming In-jun stabbed 22 children and one woman at this primary school in Guangshan Prefecture, Henan Province. Luckily, there were no fatalities. Economist Han Jiguo wrote of the Henan stabbing on his Weibo account, quote, "Mainstream media is playing a deaf mute, and the news can only be seen on Weibo. Does this attitude from mainstream media mean that the lives of Chinese children aren't worth much?" End quote. Han's post has been reposted almost 150,000 times. In response to a CCTV headline report about the Connecticut shooting, one netizen writes, quote, "Where is CCTV's report on the 22 students stabbed in Henan?" End quote. Guangshan authorities have also been criticized for their lack of response. The local government originally called for a press conference following the stabbing, but canceled it within a few hours. Local media say officials were unreachable for information. The Henan stabbings also highlighted China's poor mental health care. Initial reports say the attacker has mental disabilities and has suffered from epilepsy for 2 decades.
And finally today, a small dog in southwest China not only has movie-style looks, but is also proving smarter than the average pooch. Let's have a look.
A small dog has been delighting residents of his southwest China city with a range of tricks, including cycling, skateboarding, and balancing on the top of a ball. 2-year-old Duo from Kunming City, Yunnan Province, is proving to be smarter than the average dog and twice as quick at learning, according to his proud owner, Mr. Duan. Wearing a pair of glasses and a cape that would make Elton John proud, Duo is one smooth operator as he coasts along on his small scooter. Duo can also ride a small bike. Mr. Duan fused 2 bikes to make it more stable.
The first time I trained him to ride the bicycle was this September. Everyone thought it was quite hard for a dog to ride a bike, but Duo is clever, and I taught him to do it again and again, and now he's basically got the hang of it.
At 5 months old, Duo had learned to cross his legs, bow, shake hands, and salute. He quickly advanced to more challenging feats, and now can easily balance on a ball.
The first time he could only stand on the ball for several seconds, but on the second day I started to teach him to walk on it, and now he can stand on it for a long time.
Duo is a natural performer who may have a bright future ahead. It's a dog's life.
And that's all for this broadcast of NTD China News. Coming up next, we have Shelley Zhang with China Focus, where she speaks with NTD's senior analyst about the US SEC's lawsuit against Chinese accounting firms. Stay tuned.